We have team coverage to break down these stories. Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes is in Anchorage, Alaska, and Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane is in Washington. We're going to start tonight, though, with Scott. And Scott, the Pentagon is saying that all 800 National Guardsmen deployed to Washington have now arrived in Washington. So what does that look like exactly there? And what do we know about their responsibilities?
At this point, it seems just visual. They are notoriously out in high-volume places, outside of the major train station, at points along the National Mall, the areas where there's heavy foot traffic. In fact, there'll be a lot of tourists and visitors to see the National Guard. The Pentagon says it is a 24/7 mission for these 800 Guard members in the District of Columbia, and that they're unarmed. They're not carrying and not noticeably armed outside. That's one component of this, Nancy. The other component are the federal agents, the federal law enforcement, who by the hundreds are out in Washington, D.C., and they're, of course, armed. They're also visible, and they're going in to more high-crime areas, areas where crime has troubled the local residents and it's obviously troubled the president. And that's where things have started to pop off a bit. There were some protests last night, people jeering, heckling the federal agents, some of whom are masked, some of whom are operating unmarked vehicles, and some of whom are just rubbing people the wrong way. Not that they're there, but that they're unsure when the president's going to release the District of Columbia from this unprecedented federal takeover.
And Scott, law enforcement has been pretty busy there in the district. This morning, FBI Director Kash Patel announced a wave of arrests the Bureau made alongside its partners. What were some of the reasons behind those arrests?
These seem to be garden variety types of cases, the types of categories we see on a daily basis. The numbers you see there and the categories you see there, posted by FBI Director Kash Patel, it's a pretty ordinary set of arrests in the District of Columbia. And the numbers aren't much different than the normal day in the District of Columbia. I've been looking at the police blotter for more than 20 years here in Washington, D.C. This looks typical. And that really is the fundamental issue here. It doesn't seem to be a big change in the nature of arrests, the types of arrests, or the volume of arrests, but it's clearly a visual change for the people of the District of Columbia. And there's a broad range of opinions here, but there's two connective tissues to the opinions we've heard so far. People who live here are not displeased to have more law enforcement out on the street. It makes it easier to go to work, easier to go shopping. Kids return to school in the District of Columbia in the coming days. But there's certainly a transcendent fear that the District of Columbia will remain under the thumb of the president beyond the 30-day window mandated by law.
You know, in the midst of all of this, Scott, Mayor Muriel Bowser left the district today. Can you tell us a little bit about that trip?
Yes, she says, according to her office, she is in Martha's Vineyard for a personal family matter. Tough timing, though, politically and optically, for the mayor to be gone during what's being characterized as a civic emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott MacFarlane, thanks so much for joining us.